Wally, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, man. Thanks for inviting me back. It must have been a year, huh?
Yeah, we filmed, 2 episodes? A lot of people really loved those 2 episodes. We went into integration work, Ibogaine, our ayahuasca ceremonies, and then you went off on an adventure.
Yeah. Well, let's just say after we filmed those episodes, I had a lot of interesting sauna conversations with the people who heard those podcasts. So thank you for that.
Yeah, well, give me one.
Well, just like talking about they're like, wow, just talking about consciousness, like basically like my perspectives on consciousness, like what I've learned from my own wisdom teachings. But with me, the story and this is like why I align with, like, there's a podcaster named Elizabeth April that I really like, because she doesn't like research anything. She just like has her relationship with her guides that give her information. And what happens with me, like 90% of the time, is I have an experience, and then I find out later on like what that experience was about. And then as soon as I get that breadcrumb, it's like a series of breadcrumbs just happen. It's just like it's been like that, and it's a pretty cool way of things that happen. Like I remember, I think I was like in 7th grade in geometry, and I figured out like something, and someone's like, dude, that's the Pythagorean theorem. Like I thought I figured it out by myself, right? And they're like, that already exists, but there's something to be said for like coming upon that yourself, you know? It's like this, it's more of an experience rather than a knowing. And it's the difference between intelligence and intellect, right? Because intelligence is like our whole body having an experience, and intellect is our mind having an agreement or like a decision or a perspective. And, so a lot of that I carry with my integration work, because what integration is after you have a crisis in your life, or you take like a powerful plant medicine, it will disintegrate you into a million little pieces, and it's basically putting yourself back together again. So it's reintegration after you disintegrate.
Yeah, and you've been gone for how long and just returned?
Well, okay, so I told you on the car ride over about my living situation. I chose to live with someone that we opened up Kuya in October of 2021. I'd been working on that for 3 years behind the scenes. And this person I met, and she came on board like full time, like right when we opened, because she had a full-time job that paid her a lot of money. She was making a huge sacrifice to go from there to go to the type of money that she was going to make at Kuya. So she couldn't come on and like build it. Like I was like really into startup mode, like working 16, 18-hour days, being given tasks that I've never done before. And like, because I'm a man, they're like, oh, you're technical. Like I'm like, I'm not technical. Who told you I was technical? I can't, put together this like float tank and make sure it's operationally safe. Like, I don't know why you assume. So it was a great learning experience, and really built, your sister came on like halfway in that process, and she fit in right away, because it was like the type of person we needed. And it was such a wonderful experience. And then 6 months after we were open, it all fell apart. My best friend, who was the GM, resigned after, I asked her, I'm like, let's take your blood pressure right now. It was like 190 over 120. Wow. And I'm like, listen, like, this is going to kill you. Like, you have to do something about it. And she turned in a resignation. And shortly after that, like 2 other like major team members resigned.
What was it? Was it just the stress of running and opening Kuya?
It was a vision that we all came on, and we all had, and we came together as, and there was a person there who was one of like, there's 2 people who are the founders, and a third partner. They are basically the board of directors. The founder was my mentor, Dr. Dan Engel. He taught me like I don't want to say everything I know about integration, but up to that time, it was basically I was his student. I think I kind of freaked him out a little bit too, because like when he came on, like I was eager to be around him every day and get more and more like, information from him. And like on his free time, he doesn't want to talk about work. He just wants to talk about playing pickleball and like stuff like that. So I may have come on a little too strong with him. I realize that now after like I'd known him for a while. But what had happened was, and we realized, and I might be talking out of line a little bit because I did sign like an agreement not to like kind of give details, but the visions of Dr. Dan were being usurped by the partner who basically had a different idea. And he was keeping all of us who left our jobs to build this place, like very capable people, to be on the medical level. We had opened up the ketamine clinic. We were taking clients. I do integration. They were not offering integration. I was being kept as someone who made like barista style drinks and folding towels and doing laundry.
But you left. So you left that place. You traveled for a while. Now you're back to reopen and promote a very, very cool integration center opening.
Yeah. So basically I had to since then I've been self-employed. And working in addiction recovery, there's always someone who needs some help. And I was working one-on-one with people. And my living situation had turned because the person who I lived with totally went all on mission, Kuya, to you guys are all whacked and I'm going to go back to the old Western, side of medicine that I can rely upon. And I'm just going to do my own healing on my own time. And living with that person became very hard because I cared about this person, and this person happened to be doing a lot of medicine. And as someone who does integration, I was seeing that, maybe her, she was getting a little bit paranoid and it was affecting me. And I ended up just, leaving and traveling where I was needed. I had a client in Colorado who really needed one-on-one work. So I went out and saw him a couple times and did 2 road trips there. And then, a lot of crazy things happened in that house when we lived together. But I had 3 dreams over the course of a month with that I would actually call alien abductions.
Yeah?
Yeah. No doubt. In the first dream, and each one of them was when I was at a point where I was almost in tears going to bed, really feeling God, what happened to my community, my tribe? It's gone. I have no one here. It's just totally dissipated. And where do I belong? I finally thought I found, after all these years, a place where I belonged, and it's gone. And I went to bed that night, asking, just help me, just help. And in the dream, this Boba Fett looking type of character pinned me up against the wall and sprayed me up the nose with some type of nasal spray, up each nose. And I saw him pixelate and disappear. And then he tapped it on my head twice, boom, boom. He's like, you're good. And it woke me up, and all the anxiety I had was gone. The second dream I had was probably a few months later, where it was a reoccurring dream that I've had for years. And it's where I'm being kind of in this maze of a house, just running around this maze. It's kind of being chased, but just kind of going in a loop. And that's basically what the dream is. And always in the dream, there's this couch on the side that I kind of trip over. And when I fall, a dog licks me in the face. And
this dream happens over and over again.
Yeah, it's a recurring dream from childhood. And I hadn't had this dream in a while. And so I trip over the couch, and instead of the dog looking me in this face, this huge hand that looked like it was from some subterranean being put his hand on my chest and vibrated me. And it vibrated my whole body and chest. And I woke up and I was still vibrating.
Damn.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the next night, I'm still just man, what am I going to do? I just can't live here anymore. Something's got to happen. but I feel something brimming. I can really feel it. And my roommate too was also going through her own stuff, and she's brimming like this thing happening in her life. And, and I want to talk to her about like, yeah, there's something. I'm like, I think this is all happening for a reason, but she didn't have the capacity or the space to like listen, to be there for me as I was for her. So as I'm, telling her, I'm like, I think something's about to happen, like this manifestation I had from years ago. And I went to bed that night and I'm like, I just want to go home. I don't belong here. And I'm flying over this terrain of a planet that is not our planet. And there's like pyramids on it, and it's like very sandy, but it's like not our planet. Like there's like technology there that does not exist here. And I realized, I'm like, oh, this is home. This is home. And enter from stage left, I swear to God, comes this gray alien with ET like type of big blue eyes, wearing a spacesuit with an emblem. And he just looks at me. It was definitely a he type of energy. And the first thing he did was like, like sighed, like I can feel it. He let me know that he can feel how I felt. And I did the right thing to ask for help, which made me feel immediately better. And then he started blinking, going blink, 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 blink. And the message I was getting was something is brimming. You're about to receive a phone call, and it is about something that you manifested from 3 years ago. And 3 years ago, when I first moved to Austin, that's a whole other story, but I was in midair from Seattle when they announced COVID entered the US. And I was just visiting an Ibogaine aftercare to see like potentially 9 months from now if I wanted to work there, because they were talking about expansion. When I landed, they didn't even want to pick me up because COVID entered the US from Seattle. And they're like, this guy is coming with COVID. So they quarantined me for 4 days. And I ended up absorbing like 4 people's jobs, because either you moved into the house with the clients because we had 2 people who lived there who were HIV positive, or we'll see you after this whole COVID thing blows over in 2 weeks.
Yeah, should only be 2 weeks.
Should be about 2 weeks.
Just flatten the curve.
Meanwhile, they shut down everything that we do outside the house, all the modalities, all the gym, the yoga, the massage, the acupuncture, the sauna, the cryotherapy. I had to come up with a whole curriculum. So I ended up working for these people for like a year, not really knowing them. This is in addiction recovery. And, in addiction recovery, it's the same everywhere. I'm not like blaming these people. They did the best they can. But here's a couple things I've seen is when people work in a field of healing and they don't take a break and they burn themselves out, and then they make a decision from a place of scarcity, that's doom. And the first sign of that is when you start seeing their self-care practices disappear. And that's what I started seeing. So the vision I had was like originally, before I even came to visit, was how cool would it be to like work in like at a retreat place in Mexico? I imagine it like being like kind of in the hills by the water. Like I had this whole picture in my head. And I woke up the next morning after having that dream, and I get a phone call from this guy, Joseph. He's like, bro, I don't know if you're interested in this or not, but I've been working with this Iboga center. And what they do is something very unique. They give people Aboga over the course of a month, and they give them low dose, and they build it up every day. You have to stay there at least a month. You could stay up there longer. Some people have been in there 5 months. And I've heard about this technique being way more effective. The reason why Ibogaine is served in the way it's served is because it's like turn and burn. Like you come in on a Monday, you're out on a Sunday. You got all the the addiction out of your system. Like you're no longer physically hooked to the heroin or whatever opiate you're on. And good luck with you.
Hard reset. Is this experience after we had our last episode?
Yeah.
Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is all new.
This
stuff.
is all new.
Just for everybody, explain what Ibogaine and Iboga is.
But real quick. So like the cocoa leaf is to cocaine, as Iboga is to Ibogaine.
So Aboga is the more concentrated.
Like Iboga has the full full system.
It's the reverse. Okay.
Yeah. Right. So there's like 13 alkaloids that are in Aboga.
Okay.
Ibogaine has the psychoactive element of it.
And
like,
what does it come from? Is the plant the Iboga?
The plant's Iboga. It comes from Gabon, which is in Western Africa. It's near Cameroon. It comes from a shrub. It's the root of a shrub. And the story goes that like some pygmy lady was hunting for a porcupine, and like she like threw like, you know, like a spear through a porcupine, and at the end of the spear was a little piece, like the porcupine was eating the root of the shrub, and she ate like a big chunk of Aboga and had an experience, and that's how they figured out the medicine, you know, had any value.
Okay, so you're at this new center in Mexico?
So I get a phone call.
Okay.
And, you know, he's like, man, he's like, they're looking for someone to create a curriculum down there. And what I can tell you is if you come down with me for a month, they're going to serve you, you're going to do their curriculum for a month. And then they want you to alter their curriculum. So I went down there for a month. He's like, I'm like, okay, I'm going to fly down there with you. He's like, let's drive. I'm like, I don't know about driving my car into Mexico, man. Like, that sounds crazy.
What part of Mexico?
So Ensenada. So he's like, he goes, Google it. How safe is it to drive to Ensenada? It's 2 hours south of San Diego. It is like the safest. I've done this journey like 8 times now, but it's super safe. And he told me that if I have a 5-minute conversation with someone named Grandma Shirley, she's a Lakota elder, that would be worth my trip. And something like really hit home there, like because I received the message from my own guides that I was being called to be an elder, and I'm supposed to meet an elder to be my teacher. So I dinged up. So I'm like, okay, we're gonna drive, and we drove down there. And I meet Grandma Shirley like on the first day, but we don't talk much because
how old is Grandma Shirley?
She just turned 85.
Wow, cool.
And she's been doing this work for 65 years nomadically. She's been to like 114 different countries, and she is currently she's lived in 60 different countries. She still works wherever she's needed, and that's what she does.
Is she the one that's also going to be at the Samadhi Center?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right.
Yeah.
So what was your first conversation with her?
My first conversation with her, she's, this is how Lakota elders talk to people. She's like, you, come over here and sit here right now. And I go over there. I'm like, hi, Grandma Shirley. My name is Wally. I'm like, I've heard, a little bit about you. And she's like, what did you hear about me? I go, well, I heard that if I drove here from Austin and spent 5 minutes talking to you, it would be worth the drive. And then she goes, are you about 52? I go, well, I just turned, I'm about to turn 51. She's like, well, I was just told that I'm supposed to train someone to be, take someone under my wing to be an elder, and you can't do that until you're 52. So I think you're the person that's supposed to come. And she's like, you fit the person. She's like, I just got that message. I'm like, well, I just got that message too. Wow. So, wow, here we are. And, let's just say this. This is in Mexico. You have to have a relationship with the cartel in Mexico in order to be a business. We are protected by the cartel. And it is a dirty business. I mean, addiction recovery is dirty. I mean, to get people off of fentanyl, you have to have a buttload of pharmaceuticals. And then we have to get people off the pharmaceuticals. So it's a pretty gnarly business. The type of clientele we've had there, I can't give any names, but we've had famous porn stars. We've had leaders of certain type of mafias down there. We've had famous musicians down there. We've also have had trained assassins who don't legally work for the U.S. but are on assignments.
Come one, come all, sounds like.
I mean,
did you have to go through the program?
Yeah, I did a month of Aboga.
Okay, we got to talk about that.
Aboga is not what you think it is at all. It's super gentle. It's so this is how they do it. First day, here's 2 grams. We're gonna take your blood pressure. First of all, you get your heart tested, you get your liver tested. You pass that, we're giving you 2 grams. Check with you in 2 hours. How you doing? Take your blood pressure again. Do you feel like doing 2 more grams? Sure, cool. We're gonna keep you at 4 grams today. Next day, we're gonna bring you up to 8. See how that goes. And, we measure your blood pressure, heart rate, like everything gets checked, make sure you're okay. And you keep going up and up and up until you say, I'm good.
How was it served?
It's served in a capsule. Okay. I almost brought some today just to show you guys.
Show us. We were going to take it for the podcast.
No, just take it for the podcast, right? But it's like served in a half-gram capsule. It looks like a mushroom supplement. It's shredded wood, right? And so I'm having a day where I'm up at around 20 grams, okay? And I'm going to take another 20. And Aboga behaves differently at night. As soon as like during the daytime, you can get up, walk around, talk to people, like do stuff. It's totally fine, but you kind of feel like laying down and just relaxing. It's kind of like a Valium. It makes you feel like really just chilled out, right? But as soon as the sun sets, it's like this blanket comes down on you, and you start to, if you close your eyes, you're having like a visionary experience. And I kept on having the same visionary experience of random people. There's like what Aboga does. It's like a brush scrub that cleans all the nonsense out of your brain. It detoxifies whatever is not working for you in your whole body. So it detoxifies your whole body, but including your brain. Like you'll see a commercial that you saw from like 1984 in there. And you're like, well, why the hell am I watching this commercial? And it's like, and you just say like, goodbye, get rid of it. And it's like, okay, that fades away, and then it brings on something else. And
it's like emptying the recycle bin on your computer.
It's literally rebooting your computer. It's like that's a perfect explanation for it. It's like, there's a hard drive, there's a soft drive, but it's like literally going through all the circuits, and you decide, what's worthy examining and what isn't. And what was the coolest part was I saw like my father and my mother, and I saw my mother as a young child. I saw my face turning into her face, and then her face as a child. And it was really interesting that where I was like really like watching a video, like her just like playing around and just being a kid. And I saw my father's face like never change. It was always like the same like my father died when I was 13, so I don't have like a lot of interaction with him because he worked a lot. But it was just like it must be a memory of a photo of him or something like that. But that it kept on kind of coming up. But what happened this is the strangest part. And every time I took it, I am like in like a dirt floored like bar with people like, it's definitely like Latinos in there, but it's cowboy Latinos. It's like an Austin style like type of bar, but Latino, right? And like there's people like, like there's dancing going on, there's a band, but like there's people wearing like plaid shirts, and I guess I'm standing up against the wall because people just like come by sideways, they stop and they look at me. And some people are like this, they really look at me and like they're really examining me, and like they make faces at me, and they're like yeah, they look at you like, yeah, I know you. And it's almost like it's like it feels like, man, is this person like about to jump me or something? It's like the strangest thing that happened continually the whole time. But right when I got back there, it just always happens in recovery places. I used to smoke cigarettes when I drank. Mm-hmm. Immediately when I got there, I started smoking cigarettes. And I'm like, shit.
Why do you think that is?
It's just, something to do. Like, it's a social thing. Like people are always like gathering and like smoking cigarettes. Like in every recovery place, like people vape or smoke. That's just standard. Like I think maybe 0.5% of people don't, you know? And I remember being like, man, like, why am I smoking? This is stupid, right? And so in the visionary experience, I go, I would really like to because, you know, I'm not addicted to opioids anymore. I'm not addicted to alcohol anymore. But I'm like, here I am adding this like nicotine, like cigarette addiction that I know is not healthy. So it decided to show me the most disgusting thing I've ever seen in my life.
Damn, what? Well, okay, yeah, what?
It's the hardest thing to talk about because I could picture it right now. It showed me I'm in the back of a pickup truck, and we're like going over these hills, and it's kind of like sunsetty, and like this girl's sitting there, and there's like this crock pot in the middle, like a crab boil like type of pot, but in it was a chicken, and there's a bunch of us sitting in there, and she picks up the chicken. I'm like, don't put your hands in there. That's hot. Like she just puts her hand in it, and I'm like concerned that she's gonna burn her hand, and she just grabs it like this and puts the chicken in her mouth and starts to eat it, and she's like shoving it in her mouth, like eating it, but she keeps going and going, and her head is getting bigger and bigger, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, she's choking. Like you got to help her, and she's like go like this, and like she's stuck, and like I'm like she's gonna die. Like you see her she's turning purple, like she's like out of air, and suddenly she goes like this. She pulls out all of it, like all the chicken, and she pulls on it for like 5 minutes straight, and she pulled out all of her own insides, and like came to this black like nothingness of a silhouette of a shadow. And all you see is like this smoke of her, but it's kind of in the shape of like a fizzled down version of her. And then you just see the sun setting right behind her.
Wow. Do you think this medicine shows you particular visions and experiences compared to other medicines?
Yes. I would not compare it to anything else. It's called the grandfather. There's nothing really gentle about it except for the feeling of feeling relaxed like during the day. But the visionary, it's like very, I'm around a lot of Lakotas now, and Lakotas are very stoic people. And as a white man, like they're just not going to come at you with like a whole bunch of friendliness. They're going to like make you earn your stripes a little bit. They're going to kind of give you the cold shoulder. And I would have to say that in that experience, like every being that I met, like was like giving me the cold shoulder. Like I had the feeling like he knew me. They knew me, and they knew I was full of shit. Right?
It just shows you your shit, like with no softness, where ayahuasca can, pummel you with love at the same time.
Yeah, like none of that. well, here's the thing. I was about to take my second 20 grams. And
like at what point?
That night, I'm going for 40. I'm going big. I'm going for the flood.
How far are we into this 30-day?
So this is about 20 days in.
Okay, so we're getting up there.
So this is going to be my flood. This is going to be my peak. And I'm going to continue to take Aboga after, just to kind of like keep it in my system after. But this is like my experience.
Got it.
And
well, just for context, if somebody does like a 1 day, like you said, turn and burn Ibogaine journey, what's a normal range of dose that they might get?
Oh, I mean, it's different. That's HCl. So they turn it into a different substance altogether. It's turned into a white powder called like hydrochloride. And that would be probably doing anywhere from like 40 to 60 grams of Iboga, right? Depending on the person, everyone's different, but in their experience, like they're laid out for 18 to 36 hours, like in a state of having in the dream state the entire time. They can't move. I mean, if they have to get up to use the bathroom, that's like the hardest walk in the world with like people helping them. And like, you can't even see anything. What I've heard, I've heard a lot of different experiences. just synergetically, my first client ever works at that center now. He dates the medicine woman. And this is my first client from like 5 years ago. So that's just like one of the weird synergies of this place. And he is the craziest Ibogaine story I've ever heard. He was in the medicine for 5 days straight, 120 hours. Wow. With someone else.
What was the dosage?
I'm not sure what the dosage was, but it must have been a crazy big dose because he's told me that he's taken up to 90 grams of Iboga while being there because he's had a couple relapses and like gone back. But typically it's about 18 hours, and the visionary experience is about half of that, and the rest of it is just kind of just like the come down. There's a little bit of a build up. You hear this ding, and then it hits you, and then you have your major experience where you have no agency. There's a part in your pineal gland. There's a chemical that gets released that keeps you from acting out your dreams. So like in Ibogaine, it will paralyze you, which freaks people out. Like it's like being in sleep paralysis.
Will you enlighten us on the science of Ibogaine? Like, how does it do what it does?
Well, it interacts like there's no better medicine that rearranges your the neural pathways of the brain than Ibogaine. It has an intelligence, as all plants do. It's like ayahuasca does the same thing. It's just Ibogaine has this neuroplasticity where it just basically it's able to it scans your whole body first. Then that's why it takes a little bit to come on, and it decides we're going to. It deals with the brain, specifically the brain. And it decides the first thing we're going to do is scrub out the brain. We're going to clean out and get rid of all the garbage. And now we're going to rearrange the wiring of your brain, like where, your dopamine, because most people in life now are dopamine addicts. Mm-hmm. Like they're, which means they're addicted to their devices. They're always looking for what's next, things that feel good, right? So it also creates new connections with things that, like, if you want to make a change, I can't think of smoking a cigarette without thinking about that chicken now. Like, it is that's in me. That's in my energetic signature now. And just so happened, and the next day, well, two things happened. Number one, I'm about to take my second 20-gram dose, and although you're not supposed to have a phone during this whole time.
Oh, no.
I have to, because I have clients, and some of my clients are very serious clients, and I would at least have to let them know that I'm in an experience and I can't talk to them. Well, I get a text message from the Colorado client that he's like, I'm about to kill myself.
Holy fucking shit.
Yeah. Holy shit. So
this is during your 40-gram dose.
So I'm 20 grams in, and he's done this before. So I'm just and then his mom and his girlfriend are like, no, he's in a bathroom, with a knife. He is really going to kill himself. So I have to pick up the phone and let him know, listen, I'm on 20 grams of Iboga right now. Just so you know, I might not be able to even talk. I'm like, if this is happening, call 911. You have to, I can't do anything from Mexico. I can't talk to him on the phone. There's nothing I can do. They're like, well, they're going to 5150 him. I'm like, well, if he's really going to kill himself, that's what needs to happen, So I spent an hour on the phone with them, and then, they're like, here's your second 20 grams. I'm like, there's no freaking way I can take that right now. There is no way. So it kind of got usurped. But I really did get a lot out of it, because I continue to take, lower doses of Iboga for the next, I took 8 grams the next day. I took 6 grams. I just kind of came out of it a little. And then I just lived there, and I go, okay. My first assessment of this place is this person, and this person, they're all burnt out. They need a break now. And you could just feel it on their energy. I'm like, there's a toxic relationship that's happening here right now. And it's between these two people who used to date. I'm like, you need to separate them. You feel that here. And basically, people, they get into scarcity mindsets. They're like, well, where am I going to go? Because, they've created a life for themselves there where it's like they live off of nothing, basically. Like it's so cheap to live there, and they just decide to stay there. So after, like I created a curriculum for them. I designed it so they didn't have to pay me 1 cent. Because I knew that they were behind on paying their employees. I'm like, well, I'll just go directly to the clients who want integration, and they'll pay me directly.
I really want to get into the curriculum, but I want to first hear, going through that 30 days, how did you shift? Because you've done quite a few different medicine ceremonies and integration work on yourself, but I haven't talked to many people who've done Iboga, and so I'm very curious about that medicine and your personal, experience.
It really showed me that, like, it showed me that I've already shifted in many ways. Like, I didn't really need it for like what most people like need, like come to need it for. It showed me that that
you've done a lot of scrubbing.
Yeah, I've done a lot of scrubbing. It showed me that there's still a lot of ancestral stuff I need to work on with my own like personal family, and that's not just gonna go away. Like I can't just like avoid that. Like even though like I've decided at age 50, like I'm not going to engage, and like, I'm the only one I'm the youngest one. I'm the only one who ever moved away. Right. I moved out when I was 17. I'm 51 now. It's 34 years of me going back to visit them. And they call me Walt. Like no one calls me that. Like, and they have this idea, they have no interest in what I'm doing in my life. They just how I fit into their life. And all they do is when they're around each other, it's like a very Italian thing, is gossip about the other relatives. And I'm like, told them on my 50th birthday, this is right before I went out, because I went home to visit them, because I did ayahuasca for my 50th. I told them, our relationship needs to change, because I'm not going to go on, like I'm 50 now, like I'm not going to keep coming back here and visiting unless there's like, some improvements here. And it just showed me that the patterns that are in my family, because I see a lot of, especially like in my brother, who has become the martyr in the family now. I used to be the martyr, but like now it's all on him, because he's the only one who's there. Like, and he's like, he takes care of his in-laws, my mom and my sister, who is basically needs mental health.
Yeah, it sounds like family stuff, no matter how much work, will continue to some degree, right?
Right. So in other words, it showed me like avoiding it is not going to behoove me any, because there's a lot of personal growth by going through that ancestral stuff. In fact, lean into that more. So it's funny, because my cousin, because she's the only one in my generation who's younger than me, she went through a 10-year period, a very hard period, but basically lost her dream job 10 years ago because she was the right-hand man of like this person, or this entrepreneur who like had his hands in all different types of like cool projects. He was found dead in a hotel room from an OD. And since then, she's been like looking for like a job of that caliber, but those jobs don't exist. So the jobs that she has been taking she's mostly been unemployed, but when she gets hired for $200,000 to $300,000 a year. And so she had been working like that with this company for like about a year, but she has her own health issues, and she decided to invest in the land and my grandfather's ranch back in Italy. And I recently came across like a really old picture of my grandmother. I mean, my grandparents were born in the 1800s. Can you believe that? Like that's trippy, right?
Yeah.
So I saw this really old picture of my grandmother. I never met her. She died when my dad was 13. My dad died when I was 13. And just like by looking at her and seeing the look in her eye, like I'm coming to find out there's a lot of qualities about her, like that sounds like me. Like I have a connection to her. And my cousin restoring this land, and because everyone's like, tear the house down, like no one's lived in it for like 40 something years. Who knows what's living in there? Just clear it. If you want to build something else, like it's probably cheaper to do that. And my cousin was like, no, my mom, who's 90, really wants to restore that house. And, my whole family's like, she's 90. Well, she's not even going to enjoy it, and she's like, well, that's what my mom wants. So like she went and did that. And I'm glad she did, because I feel like there's an ancestral connection for me, like that the medicine showed me, like to eventually, and I knew it because the happiest if anyone ever asked you, like, when's the happiest you were ever in your life? When you get to be my age, like I had this conversation last night with my friend who's in her 50s. I'm like, when's the happiest? And she's like, I can't remember. And I'm like, neither can I right now. I go, but let's really think about this. That's fucked up that we can't remember this, And I thought about it. I'm like, oh, it was when I was living in Italy. When I was 25 years old, I was in art school, and I had traveled the world for a year, and then I went to art school, and I became a leader at this school because our sculpture instructor was an alcoholic whose hands were shaking, and when we're doing bronze pours, and I had to like kind of take over and be like, you can't do this. I'm going to have to do this. And our painting instructor, who was a instructor from the University of Rice, and they had some students from the University of Rice, had actually sexually assaulted one of his students, and I got in his face. So like, and then I had to take an art history class, which I already had credit for. Like I didn't need art history.
Yeah. So you guys are thinking about what's one of your favorite times in your lives,
right?
What do you think? Like looking back, what is the essence of that, and what can you create now? And then after that, I really want to talk about the Samadhi House and what you've kind of put together for that.
It shows me like at that time, like travel was very important to me. Just like seeing new things, get new perspectives, and just have like the name of my truck. I call my truck Freedom because I love just driving. Right. And that's when I'm happiest is when I'm alone in my truck, listening to podcasts or whatever. Like I drive a lot. I put 50,000 miles in that truck in 2 years. Right. So back then I was traveling a lot. I lived in another country where, I had like an Italian girlfriend that we'd have to like go through like an English-Italian dictionary just to have a conversation. It showed me that just getting out of my own, element, and just like away from getting back to more traditional ways of living, simplifying life is like what it's really about, and connecting with my ancestors because that's where they're from is when I was happiest.
Which sounds like it really enriched your life quite a bit.
Yeah. And I was also in art school seeing the most amazing art ever.
Yeah.
It was just like, like the perfect, storm. And I was 25 years old and I, for the first time in my life, said, rose up against something I believe was wrong. And, because I was 25, because I flunked out of my first college, I was 4 years older than these other kids. So I had like more balls, know?
Well, now you're on a new adventure, right? I mean, this Samadhi House, I got to hear about it.
All right, so the Samadhi House came about. My friend Autumn, she owns an Airbnb, and we were working on this other project together, where a friend of ours like wanted to like create a place where people can get ketamine treatment, but it'd be residential. And just the meetings we were having, it just seemed to be going nowhere. And she just comes up to me and she's like, well, why don't, like my house is basically vacant, like from October to the end of February. It's only busy during concert season, which is March 1st to the end of April. And then from May to August, it's totally dead. And then September, what comes before September is August. Yeah. August and September is busy again. So there's 2 4-month periods in which she's totally dead. She's like, well, would you be able to turn that into like a halfway house, a transitional living house? I go, I don't want to do that. Like, that's what I do right now. I go, but from traveling a lot, what I noticed was whenever I re-enter back into the matrix after being out of the country for a while, like my central nervous system I'm super sensitive to everything. Like everything, like it just feels like it's overwhelming. And thank God I have the resources in Austin of like going to a place like Kuya, like getting in nature, having the relationship with the Lakota tribes, and like to really ground myself. And this is what I teach people. I go, so I would rather open up a place that is for people who are already working on themselves and maybe been outside of the country for a little bit, like maybe in Colombia or Peru or Mexico or Costa Rica or wherever, and want to continue to have a little bit more space, more time, more support, more community. And here's the big difference, because there's places that have opened up like this, but it's their curriculum where you do everything that they do. I go, no, I want to just give them a place where we start the day a certain way. We have connection options for them, but like just give them the money to choose their own integration with. So like each person who stays there for a month gets $1,000 per month to spend on integration. Where they can get a membership at Kuya, they can go get another membership at like an art studio. They can do whatever they want. They can do more medicine work if that's what they want to do. We're going to offer medicine journeys because we are hooked up with a legal medicine church. We are a nonprofit.
Wait, so you pay $1,000? Or wait, how does that work exactly?
Like people who come and stay with us, they pay us. I give them $1,000 out of what they paid me to spend towards however they want to spend for integration.
So they pay an amount, like a tuition, I guess, for the home.
Yes.
And then out of that, they get $1,000 that has to be used for integration purposes.
Yes.
Okay.
Integration per month. And it could carry over to the next month. Like say, oh, there's like this cool medicine journey I want to do that costs like $1,500. They can, they can
save up.
They can save up. It carries over, right? I give them $500 per month. I'm going to give them, we're walking distance to Wheatsville and to Central Market. So I'm just going to get a bunch of like $25 gift cards. They each get $500 per month to spend on organic food. Here you go.
So who is your clientele then, and how are they finding you?
Well, okay. So our clientele, like right now, is I do integration work within a lot of medicine communities, like many out of like worldwide, pretty much. So there's people who want to come to Austin, and and continue who like basically go back to wherever they're from, and are just like the biggest problem, the biggest thing I'm seeing on these links, these signal links that we have, are people who they need a landing pad, and they weren't ready to come home. They're not surrounded by the right people. They don't have the right tools. They don't have the resources. They just haven't done that part yet. Like they haven't they've redesigned themselves, but they haven't done the makeover of their homes yet.
Okay, I'm still struggling to understand a little bit. Me and Tony, we come back from the Amazon. We've been out there for a month. We land. We message you. And then where do we show up somewhere? Where? Walk us through. Me and Tony just landed.
Okay, cool. So like you message me, you want to stay for X amount of time. We figured out whatever that is. And so each amount of time has different perks to it. Okay. And so I make sure, since there's mandatory integration that goes with that we come up with a plan so when you eventually do go back home, you're set up.
So it's a bespoke plan for each person.
Yeah, it's very individual for each person. So like,
and you came up with this.
Yeah,
that's rad, dude.
Like it's like here's the thing. Like people are like, oh, you should make a workbook. I'm like, the world's changing like so quickly. Like a workbook I can write out will be obsolete in 6 months. The world is changing that quickly. Like things are, like we're having an election. That's going to change everything. The financial system's going to change. Like there's so many things that are going to change. You just can't cookie cutter it. It's got to be tailored for each person.
So then what are the elements when you're coming up with a curriculum for one particular person or coming up with their action plan, basically?
For me and Tony.
Okay.
Specifically.
So,
like how are you creating this?
The curriculum goes Sunday through Saturday, okay? I do it through the chakra system. So Sunday, we're gonna focus on root chakra. Okay, so I have a lot of different practices. We can start our day by clearing and just center it around grounding ourselves in our root chakra. The next day, Monday, is going to be about our sacral chakra. Solar plexus will be on Tuesday. Wednesday will be about the heart. Thursday will be about the throat. Friday will be about the third eye. Saturday will be about the crown. And I have all different types of modalities and practices that do that, and that's how we're going to start our day. A lot of it involves sound. There's many different practices that can do that for you. I can do that with crystals. I can do that with like sound healing. I have, just because I've been in Austin for like many years, I know who the real people are who do the real work, and I know who the predators are who are posing as healers. So like it's just like I'm like kind of almost like the yellow pages of like who to call for this type of work. Like
old school ask G's, but ask Wally.
Yeah, like just because I got a front row view of that at Kuya, and just really getting to know people. And by the way, I'm not being judgmental at all, because a lot of these people I would not have sent to a year ago, I would send to now. And by the way, I have made mistakes along the way. So everyone has room to grow in this. This is the wild, wild west. And the best learning experience is by making mistakes. But I've also heard horror stories about people who are charging $40,000 for a psilocybin journey, and that goes haywire, and then they abandon the person.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Before we started filming, Wally, you said that your chakras change every 7 years, or they shed kind of like your skin.
Okay, well, as we grow up, okay, from age 0 to 7, your root chakra develops. Okay, your other chakras are developing, but it's focused on your root. Your root chakra has to do with safety and security. And coincidentally, from age 0 to 7 is when our core wounds develop. There's 5 core wounds. There's abandonment, betrayal, rejection, humiliation, and injustice. Okay? So from age 8 to 14, that's your sacral chakra. And that's where we find out what feels good, like what we like. It's about recreation, because that's where our sexual organs are. That's why we get puberty then. But it's also about recreation. What's fun? From age 15 to 21, that's our solar plexus. That's our power center. That's when you're first given the keys to the car. That's when you first don't need a babysitter anymore. Like you're given some power, some responsibility. You could go get a job, From age 22 to 28, that's when your heart chakra is being, fully developed. And that's when you're, really ready for intimate relationship and bonding, true bonding, because you had to go find your own friends. You weren't given the friends that you just grew up with from just being in school or going through college anymore. Like you kind of are past that point, and you're on your own, right? You're creating yourself. By the time you're 29 to 35, that's where your throat chakra is, right? And that's where you speak your truth. You know who you are. You know how you are.
What a perfect time for you to start a podcast when you're
right.
Boom.
They're 30, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
turn
perfect.
30.
Yeah, so
I'll be 31.
The next 5 years,
sense.
he's going to be speaking truth.
And that's why, you know, by coincidence, you can't be president until you're 35. You know, like these things line up. So next chakra, 36 to 42, is where your third eye. So, like, you know, I just went through the crown. Because it takes about 50 years to go through all 7 chakras, right?
Yes, I'm almost 39, so I'm heading into crown phase.
Yeah, you're heading in the crown. So that's your connection with the divinity that lives within you and outside of you. So this is like where you really find out there's more to you than just you. You have actual allies and that, you know, and you can have connections with that. And by the way, you know, they're all these chakras are always there, but they're developing. So what I do with people is I can see if there's any blockages in their chakras, and then I examine them and I see if there's a reason why that makes sense. Well, yeah, I got this going on in my life. Well, that makes sense then. You know, that's why there's a blockage there. Like right. But if there isn't a reason for the okay, now I start really examining. Well, are you carrying this for someone else? Are you doing someone else's work? Are you an empath? Is this ancestral? Right? Is this from a core wound? Are you repeating like a cycle? Now, the reason why we repeat the core wounds that happen between age 0 and 7 was we needed, their abandonment, betrayal, rejection, humiliation, and injustice, was we needed an adult at that time to intervene to let us know we're okay. It's not their fault. It's probably because they turned their head for 5 seconds and something happened. And from our perspective, we were really, like wham, like we didn't get what we needed, right? So we started off our life 0-1. Our ego doesn't like a losing record. Our ego wants to kind of like bring on that pattern. It likes that pattern. It wants to fight that fight again and again and again. And it wants to have a winning record. So that's why. So I see what patterns there are in your life. Okay. And we source that. So at the same time, I can figure out what your core wounds are, where your distortions in your chakra system. But after that, we can spend 5 years of talk therapy, or we could just clear it in a ceremony. That's what the medicines are for. Mm-hmm. Clear it in a ceremony, be done with it. And then now that you have a clear channel, that's where the recovery turns into discovery now. Because now you're open and you have you have clarity now. And now I can teach you the technology of the human body, which is the most advanced technology in the world. It can hold the lowest vibration and the highest vibration and not self-implode. Other dimensional beings can't do that. That's why they're so interested in us. We are an experiment. And, I have a lot of things I'm into. I like Law of One and anything by Dolores Cannon. These are all people who've been hypnotized and have very similar stories about this, but they all tell the same stories that human beings are part of an experience, because if we can learn to love and accept each other, because then they can, because they're having wars up there. And so we're really just being supported. And there has been different types of interference that have happened from dark beings, but it's really when I was talking about energetic hygiene in the car, it's really easy to just kind of just claim your own space is this is mine, just any entities, any hitchhikers, anything that's not mine, just leave my cellular system now. They are vampires. They literally need to be invited into your home.
How can someone start being aware of their energetic Would you say energetic cleanliness?
Do you have like
hygiene? Yeah.
Do you have any some principles for cleaning it as well?
Well, that's what like a lot of the the smudging is about, right? Ashes do that. Mother Earth, that like burying anything does that. It heals, right? It's just giving it back to the mother, like just during different moon cycles. The moon is also the feminine energy. So the feminine energy is a healing energy, and it's gonna mom is gonna protect you, right? Your male energy is gonna push you to kind of go through the shadow, right? So we need to call upon that too. So we need both, because if we're gonna actually go through it, we can't be afraid of it, because it's the dark energy strategy is to create separation and fear. And so like if we act like well, I don't want to go there, it's one. It's like, well, total avoidance is not the answer. It's like we have to call it in and go through it, and that's what medicine and experiences do too, right? They usually create an ordeal, and you have to figure your way out through it, and you get to witness your entourage of help that shows up.
Let me pause you real quick, Mike. Do we have extra time that we can keep going, or
Mike's gone. Mike's on a bathroom break.
All right, Mike, keep going.
Okay. So one of the mandatory books that I think everyone should read who does this work is, I'll show it to you right here. It's called Zaun Falun. This book was banned in China.
Yeah.
What happened in China?
I'm already in if it's banned in China.
Okay. What happened was people started showing up in the park and doing Qigong. 5 people showed up one day, 10 people showed up the next day, 20, 50, 100, and got to 500, and people in China are like, what's going on here? And they were following the teachings in this book, which has to do with Qigong and how energy works. And this actually, I'm going through this book slowly because there's just so much in there. I'm like on page 35. It's like only a 200-page book. But what I've learned already is this, and this is really interesting because it really applies with our times. When you do a lot of different practices, like say you do Qigong, you do yoga, you do meditation, you do breath work, and you're dipping your toes in all these different practices, you're actually opening up doors too. And if you don't know how to close those doors, you're like leaving yourself very penetrable for entity attack, right? So in China, that's why in ancient China, everyone who picks a practice becomes a master of that practice, and that's all they do. Because they're very aware of like how energy works, okay? So I'm not saying that we should just pick one practice and stick with it and become a master of it, but we should be aware of how energy works. And this book is a mandatory read for anyone doing energy work. And there's so many different ways that you could just go on YouTube and I have a meditation I listen to. I've spent more money paying people to help clean up energy just because I've had so many experiences in which I've had I've been ragdolled in my own room and while I'm sleeping before. I mean, being dragged across the floor, thrown into corners, yeah, and that's when you have an experience like that, this shit ain't no joke, And I call up this guy that I got a number from Australia, and he's like, okay, I'm going to send you this recording. Just listen to this meditation before you go to bed, and that won't happen anymore. And it's really not that hard. It's very simple. It's just claiming what's yours as yours, and what's theirs is theirs. And I'm not here. I'm not your light. I am my own light. You are your light, or go find your light. I'm not it. You know, like this is for me. And it's like I said, it's like a vampire.
So you were having these experiences with dark energies, and then getting ragdolled, and then you got this meditation. Did you have to do this meditation multiple times, or was it like a one and done kind of thing?
As soon as I did it, like it just stopped. And like if I even have a quiver of something weird going on, I have black tourmaline in all four corners of my room, all four corners of my bed. Okay. I have sage, like I smudged the whole room. Like, it's like, there's not really that much you have to do to keep a safe energy place. Like when I first went to Mexico, we found out that someone OD'd and died in the room that I was staying in. And like after the first night I was there, I was like, hey, listen, that room needs like some work. And Grandma Shirley took onions. And she cut up onions and put them in the corners. 2 onions, 4 corners of the room. She's like, leave them there for 4 days. And then after 4 days, she took oranges, took 2 oranges. She goes, leave them there for 4 days. And then we called everyone in there after 4 days, and we had a ceremony in which we were drumming and calling, like really like singing songs, and there was flowers involved, and we created a pathway out of the door, and then like we all swept, and like whoosh. And after that, nothing else happened in that room. It's like, there's a gazillion different ways to like for entity attacks to happen. There's so many different planes of existence that we can't see, so many different dimensions. We're in the 4th dimension right now. We shifted. Like in 2012, we shifted. We were in the 3rd dimension for billions of years. The whole purpose of the 3rd dimension, by the way, our dimensions align with our chakras. So like the whole idea of the 3rd dimension is the same as the 3rd chakra, which is about power and control.
Wow.
The 4th dimension is about connection and bonding. So we're at the beginning of that, but we're kind of in between like the radio dial when you're switching to like radio stations. Like, when you hit the button and you hear that little, that noise,
fuzziness.
That fuzziness. Yeah, we're in that space right now. And you're going to see that, there's going to be timelines that you're going to hear that word a lot in the next 6 months about choosing timelines. Mm-hmm. And you're going to hear a lot about like weird things about like misplacing things, and like mm-hmm. You're sure you put something mm-hmm. somewhere and it shows up somewhere else, and the Mandela
more
effect.
Mandela effects,
yeah. Like all that. Yeah, like it's a really weird time like right now, because like with that solar eclipse, there's like we're at the end of the 3rd 25,000 year cycle of the 3rd dimension, which was like 7 okay, the 3rd dimension was 75,000 years. The 2nd dimension was like 2 billion years. Like it's like it's you gotta listen to Law of One, and I highly suggest listening to it and following David Wilcock, who's on Gaia, because he is really someone who can explain it really well. And basically, like we're not going to spend that much time in the 4th dimension. Like we're here to go to the 5th dimension.
We don't need that much love. We gotta get straight to the talking dimension.
So here's the idea. Like Buddha, Krishnamurti, Jesus, they all came down here to show us what unconditional love was, right? Right now, there's thousands of us that are to come together and merge together as that.
Well, you're blowing our minds right now. I wish we had 5 more hours in this podcast with you.
Yeah, we'll pause there because we'll definitely pick up on that.
There's going to be a part 2.
Because I'm very interested in all of this, next piece. But before we go, can you give our listeners like 1 or 2 basic practices that are very simple to just start clearing their energy?
First thing, any practice, all the practices we teach are all about creating time and space. That's what meditation does. That's what breath work does. It's all about not having what we call the R's. Like we have a reflex, We have a reaction or we have a response. A reflex is instant. A reaction is almost instant. A response takes some pause and time. When you have a little pause and time, that allows your entourage of support that is there that wants to help you to show up. So you already have an entourage of support that's there that you have to allow. So they're always going to come in and help you and help keep those dark energies away from you if you allow them to. So anything that allows you to pause. So just ask yourself questions. Is this feeling, like, what is this feeling? Where am I feeling this in my body? Why am I feeling this in my body? Is this even mine? Just asking like a little, creating a little time and space before we react or reflex right into an old pattern, right? Because the darker energies also have used our words against us. They're like, yeah, what we need is a revolution, right? But a revolution is a lap of a circle. Same pattern, same thing. You're not leveling up at all. You're just doing a revolution, right? What we need is a spiral. That's growth. Mm-hmm. And what a lap of a spiral is a convolution. And that has a stigma to it. Convoluted, that means twisted. Yeah, like a spiral. Spiral's twisted. And we need to retell the story right now. And we're in that time right now, going into the new dimensional shift. We've been living the hero's journey for a long time. But if you notice right now, all the movies are all about the anti-hero. They're about redemption. And even in the world, who's good, who's bad? Is Elon Musk good or bad? I don't know.
Yeah, Trump and all these different people.
They're all it's the anti-heroes. Yeah. And it's like we're in this kind of weird space, and that's why we can't hide. That's why social media, everything, there's no hiding anymore. It's all out there.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's intensifying everything. Wally, thank you so much for being here. Let us know where we can connect with you with the Samadhi Center.
Yeah, okay. Our website is www.samadhi, SOMADHI, house experience. I know it's super long, .com. And you could email me at scrunch, SCRUNCH 715 @gmail.com. So either way is good. They come to me. And if you really need to talk to someone, my phone number is, I'll give it out. I don't care.
Let's not do that.
Yeah, okay.
We're just
email is good.
Yeah, email's good.
All right.
They can email you for the phone number. We'll create a little space.
Yeah, we'll link your website and your email.
Perfect.
Because I don't want to all of a sudden you get spammed by Chinese bots and just.
I already am, I'm not just give me a reason to smash this
Chinese
thing.
bots need integration work as well.
Yeah, exactly.
They do. I know. Well, that's a whole other conversation
that I really want to have, and we definitely will have.
Yeah, we'll get into AI consciousness merging with natural consciousness too.
Damn, yeah. One of my clients hit me up and she's like, "Can you ask Wally about dark AI?"
Well, she's going to have to tune in to episode 2 of the Wally experience.
And, I have. We'll talk about that.
Well, me and Tony really want to thank you for being here.
Hey, man,
thank you. You're a amazing human being with all you're doing. You look like you're 20 years old, and I hope you're around till you're 120, giving us great gifts. And it's only I feel like you're just getting started, brother.
It's an honor, man. And I'll come back here anytime. That was an hour?
That was an hour. Yeah, brother. It was an honor to have you for that fast hour.
Wow.
Absolutely.
All right, man. I feel like we barely got even started, but hey, please, invite me back. I'll come back anytime.
We'll do 2 hours next time.
All right, brother. Cool.
All right, Wally. Thank you so much.
Thank you.